The Silent Power of the Stoic Warrior. Hook and Introduction. Hey, Stoic Warrior, we live in a world where people are constantly talking, constantly reacting, constantly chasing validation. But here's the truth. The more noise you make, the less you are heard. The Stoics understood something timeless. Silence, discipline, and presence carry more power than endless words or arguments. They knew that your calm, your restraint, and your ability to endure without complaint can shake the world more than shouting ever could. This isn't about retreating from life. It's about mastering it. Today, we'll explore 12 Stoic lessons that will teach you how to embrace silence as strength, how to let go of the need to explain yourself, and how to transform every obstacle into an opportunity. Each lesson is a tool forged from the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, and shaped for your modern battles. Let's begin. Lesson 1. Silence makes them feel your absence. Have you ever noticed how much noise fills the world today? Everyone wants the last word. Everyone wants to explain, defend, or prove themselves. But here's the paradox. The more you talk, the less you're heard. Stoics understood that silence carries a weight that words often cannot. When someone disrespects you or misunderstands you, the impulse is to react, to send that long message, to call again, to demand recognition. Yet the more you chase, the more you shrink in their eyes. Silence, on the other hand, does not push. It pulls. It forces people to notice the space you left behind. And that space speaks louder than any explanation ever could. Think about a time when someone you cared about ignored you. Maybe you texted twice, 3 times, and still got no response. The silence felt heavier than words because it made you question your own worth. Now flip the perspective. When you choose silence instead of chasing, others feel that same weight. They wonder why you didn't react, why you didn't beg, why you didn't explain. That's the power of silence. It makes people face themselves without distraction. Epictetus reminded us, the more we value things outside our control, the less control we have. By staying silent, you reclaim control. You stop giving away energy to people who already decided not to understand you. Your absence becomes a mirror that reflects their actions back at them, and in that stillness, your dignity grows. Lesson 2. Silence helps you hear the truth louder. The world is full of noise, opinions, judgments, distractions, and endless chatter. In heartbreak, betrayal, or confusion, the first instinct is often to run to others for advice or to talk it out until the pain subsides. But the Stoics believed the real answers are not found in the noise of others. They are discovered in the quiet of your own mind. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Silence isn't an absence of action. It's a deliberate choice to pause, to step back, and to allow your inner wisdom to rise to the surface. Think of it this way. When water is stirred, it's cloudy. But once it settles, the mud sinks to the bottom and the water becomes clear. Your mind works the same way. In silence, the emotions that once clouded your judgment settle, and the truth reveals itself. Maybe you realize the relationship you were chasing was never balanced. Maybe you see that your anger isn't about being left, but about staying too long in the wrong place. This clarity doesn't come from texting paragraphs or demanding answers. It comes from stillness. Stoics practiced silence to separate emotions from values so they could respond with dignity rather than react out of desperation. In a world that glorifies quick responses, silence becomes your secret superpower. It gives you back your clarity. Lesson 3. Begging for closure is a form of self-betrayal. One of the hardest truths in life is that closure doesn't come from others. It comes from within. When someone leaves you without explanation, your instinct may be to demand answers. Why did you do this? Don't I deserve the truth? But Stoicism reminds us that begging for closure only deepens the wound. Epictetus taught, don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. In other words, your actions and values are where your strength lies, not in chasing explanations from those who already showed you their choices. Closure given by others is temporary. Closure you create for yourself is lasting. Imagine someone walks away from you without a word. You sit there rehearsing messages, writing long unsent letters, hoping that if you just explain enough, they'll finally understand your worth. But what really happens? You hand over your peace to the very person who took it from you. That's not healing. That's self-abandonment. True Stoic strength is realizing their silence is your closure. It means you no longer need their explanation to validate your pain or your worth. The lesson is not that they failed to give you closure, but that you gave yourself the permission to walk away without it. When you stop begging for endings, you stop betraying your own growth. Instead of waiting for someone else to give you peace, you decide to create it yourself. That is self-respect in action. Lesson 4. Silence exposes what words try to hide. Words are powerful, but they can also deceive. People say what they think you want to hear. They justify, explain, and cover up their true intentions with carefully chosen language, but silence cannot lie. Emerson once said, "What you do speaks so loudly that I cannot hear what you say." The Stoics lived by this truth. Patterns matter more than promises. Silence allows those patterns to reveal themselves. When you stop explaining and stop giving endless second chances, people show you who they truly are. Their actions become louder than any apology. Think of someone who mistreated you, then came back with perfect words. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. I'll change." At first, their words sound convincing, but when you step back in silence and simply watch, you'll see if their actions align with those promises. The manipulator grows frustrated when they can no longer provoke a reaction. The one who respects you will take responsibility and reach out with sincerity. Silence removes the mask. It strips away illusions and forces reality to stand naked. Instead of confronting with noise, you let the truth unfold naturally. This is not passive, it's powerful. Because when you rely on silence, you stop being fooled by words and start being guided by truth. Lesson 5. Not explaining yourself is the highest form of confidence. When someone misunderstands you, the natural impulse is to defend yourself. You want to prove your intentions, to explain why you're not who they think you are. But the Stoics would tell you this: true confidence doesn't need an explanation. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Don't waste what remains of your life in speculating about your neighbors." The moment you stop seeking validation from others, you free yourself from their judgment. Silence in the face of misunderstanding isn't arrogance. It's confidence rooted in self-knowledge. You know who you are, you know your intentions, and that's enough. Think of how exhausting it is to constantly explain yourself. You explain why you didn't respond, why you set boundaries, why you chose peace. But the more you explain, the more you hand over your power. Some people don't want to understand you. They just want control over how you're perceived. When you stop explaining, you refuse to play that game. This doesn't mean you don't care about truth. It means you value your peace more than someone else's opinion. The person who doesn't need to explain their every move radiates a rare kind of strength. Others may call it coldness, but in reality, it's clarity, the confidence to live by your own values without needing outside permission. Lesson 6. Detachment in silence teaches the real lesson. There is something quietly powerful about walking away without words. No dramatic exits, no final messages, just a calm detachment. Seneca said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." When you detach in silence, you don't just protect yourself. You force the other person to sit with the reality of their actions. Silence leaves space, and that space is where reflection begins. People expect anger, arguments, or endless explanations, but silence denies them that comfort. It forces them to face themselves. Imagine someone mistreats you, expecting you to fight for their attention. Instead, you detach. You don't react. You don't explain. You simply stop showing up where you're disrespected. That absence creates the lesson they never expected. They may wonder, why aren't they chasing? Why didn't they fight to stay? And in that confusion, the balance of power shifts. But here's the deeper truth. The lesson is not for them. It's for you. In detachment, you learn that your peace doesn't need negotiation. You don't have to beg to be valued. You don't have to explain to be understood. Sometimes the greatest wisdom is in leaving quietly, teaching both yourself and others that your dignity speaks louder than words. Lesson 7. Prepare for life's storms. Premeditatio malorum. The Stoics practiced an exercise called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. They would imagine what could go wrong: loss, hardship, illness, even death. Not to dwell in fear, but to build resilience before adversity struck. Seneca often reminded himself that wealth, health, and status are temporary. By visualizing their loss, he reduced their power over his emotions. This wasn't pessimism, it was preparation. When life inevitably shifted, the Stoic wasn't broken by surprise. He was ready. Think of an athlete who trains in all conditions, not just on perfect days. When the storm comes, they perform because they've rehearsed difficulty. Life is no different. By imagining setbacks, you strip fear of its sharp edge. You begin to say, if I lose, I'll endure. If I fail, I'll learn. If death comes, I'll meet it as part of life. This mindset doesn't weaken you, it steels you. Modern society avoids thinking about loss, but Stoicism teaches us to face it head on. So when hardship arrives, we are calm, centered, and ready. Silence prepares the mind. Premeditation prepares the soul. Together, they form unshakable resilience. Lesson 8. Live fully in the present moment. The Stoics taught that life is wasted when we spend it regretting the past or worrying about the future. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." And yet, most of us live everywhere except the now. We replay old conversations, relive betrayals, or fast forward into anxious predictions about tomorrow. But here's the truth. Neither yesterday nor tomorrow belongs to us. The only thing we truly own is this very breath, this very step, this very moment. Think of how often people say, "I'll be happy when I get that job, that house, that relationship. They postpone their joy, treating life like a waiting room for happiness. But the Stoic knows joy is always available in the present. Eating a simple meal, watching the sunset, or sharing silence with a friend. These are not small things, they are life itself. Living fully in the present doesn't mean ignoring the past or future. It means refusing to let them steal today. It's a radical act of freedom to say, this moment is enough. And when you live that way, you stop waiting to begin living. You're already alive. Lesson 9. Discipline your desires. Freedom isn't about indulging in every craving. To the Stoics, true freedom came from mastering your desires. Epictetus compared people enslaved to appetite, whether for wealth, pleasure, or validation, to puppets pulled by strings they cannot see. The person who cannot control their impulses is never truly free. But the one who disciplines desire gains sovereignty over themselves. They stop being ruled by what they want and start being guided by what they need. Think about modern distractions, endless scrolling, binge-watching, overindulgence in food, or the constant hunger for likes and recognition. Without discipline, these desires consume us. But when you practice temperance, you take back your power. You eat to nourish, not to numb. You work for purpose, not just for applause. You rest to restore, not to escape. This isn't about denial. It's about direction. Stoic discipline doesn't shrink your life. It expands it by giving you control. The less you are ruled by desire, the more space you have to live with clarity, freedom, and strength. Lesson 10. Focus only on what you can control. One of the core pillars of Stoicism is radical acceptance of control. Epictetus taught, some things are up to us and some are not. This is a compass for life. Most suffering comes not from what happens, but from our resistance to it. We stress over others' opinions, over outcomes, over the uncontrollable flow of life. But when you separate what is yours from what is not, you free yourself from wasted energy. You realize that your peace depends not on the world, but on your choices. Picture someone stuck in traffic, furious at the cars ahead. No amount of anger clears the road. Or imagine obsessing over whether someone will text back. You cannot control their response, only your own calm. Stoics remind us, control is not about changing the world. It's about mastering your reaction to it. This shift transforms everything. Instead of chasing control where you have none, you invest it where you do. Your mindset, your actions, your character. And when you focus only on what you can control, you stop being a prisoner of circumstance and start being the ruler of yourself. Lesson 11. Memento mori. Remember, you will die. Death was not a taboo subject for the Stoics. It was their daily teacher. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. This was not meant to depress him, but to wake him up. When you remember your time is limited, you stop wasting it on trivial arguments, petty grudges, or meaningless pursuits. Every moment becomes more precious because you understand it could be your last. Think of how often people live as if they have unlimited time. They postpone dreams, delay forgiveness, or wait for someday to begin living fully. But someday is not promised. Memento mori is not about fearing death. It's about cherishing life. When you wake up, breathe in, and remember that one day you will not, gratitude floods in. You hug a little tighter, speak a little kinder, and live a little braver. Death is not the enemy. It's the reminder that life is happening now, and it is too short to be lived half-heartedly. Lesson 12. The obstacle is the way. Perhaps the most practical of all Stoic teachings is the idea that obstacles are not barriers. They are paths. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way life will always present challenges: rejection, failure, betrayal, loss." Most people see these as roadblocks. The Stoic, however, sees them as training grounds for strength. Every difficulty is an invitation to grow, to sharpen, to rise. Think about a time you faced rejection. Maybe a job turned you away or a person walked out of your life. At the moment, it felt like a dead end. But often, those very moments redirect us toward better opportunities. Failure becomes a teacher, loss becomes a sculptor, and pain becomes the forge of resilience. The Stoic doesn't waste time wishing life were easier. They ask instead, how can this make me stronger? With that mindset, nothing is wasted. Every obstacle becomes a stepping stone, turning hardship into progress and adversity into the very tool that shapes greatness. Conclusion: the silent power of a Stoic life. Silence, detachment, control, discipline. These are not just abstract philosophies. They are weapons for the modern soul. In a world of endless noise, the Stoic chooses calm. In a culture of chasing validation, the Stoic stands firm in self-respect. And in a life full of uncertainty, the Stoic finds freedom by focusing only on what can be controlled. These lessons are not just for history books. They are for today, for this moment, for you. As you step away from this, remember, you don't need to prove yourself with words or chase recognition with noise. Your silence can be power. Your discipline can be freedom. Your resilience can be your legacy. Each day is a chance to embody these lessons, not just to know them. And when life tests you, as it surely will, let your calm be louder than chaos, your presence stronger than absence, and your actions speak louder than any explanation. This is the way of the Stoic. This is the path of sculpted grace.